thanks for stopping by. Hi, I'm Christine Walton, and I want to let you know something because what I'm doing here, I've been digging up a lot of dirt on cell phones. You would not believe. Look at all the dirt that I am finding on cell phones. I mean, check this out. Cell phones, you wouldn't believe what your cell phone company has been hiding from you. Okay? You wouldn't believe that their research actually has shown a long time ago that the cell phones are actually very dangerous. But they don't want you to know that. They've been hiding it from you. And they haven't told you that when you use these things, you think maybe it's safer? Forget it. It's not. They haven't told you, perhaps, that the smartphones are also even more dangerous than the regular cell phones. Nobody's telling you that. So I'm here to give you a little bit of dirt on cell phones, let you know what's really going on. But in order for you to really see, let's go inside to my computer and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. So come on, let's go on inside. Hey, thanks for coming inside so that I can share some more with you about the dirt that I have been uncovering on the cell phone industry. We're going to be taking a look at what the cell phone industry's own research actually says and why you haven't heard about it, how they've been able to cover it up, what independent research is saying, and most importantly, we're going to be talking about how you can use your cell phone much more safely, even how you can neutralize the effects that the cell phone radiation has on your body. So let's go ahead and get started. So first I'd like to start out with a little background information on myself and why I'm putting this series of videos together. I'm a single mom living in Central Virginia, and I have owned a cell phone for 14 years now. I've heard many warnings over the years from various sources that radiation from cell phones is a health concern, but the truth is, I really didn't want to know that my cell phone might be a health hazard because I really liked the convenience of using it. I would often feel my phone getting hot against my head during long conversations, and that did concern me, so I got a headset, and I thought that would be safer. When my daughter went off to college, she, of course, needed a cell phone, and I got her a headset too, thinking for sure that was the safe thing to do. But recently, I came across some very disturbing information, and I began to feel very concerned at noticing how many people I see every day holding cell phones to their heads or walking around with a headset on. I started doing in-depth research. I even tracked down the phone number of Dr. Howard Fisher and spoke with him personally. Now, Dr. Fisher lectures internationally, educating doctors about the dangers of using cell phones. As he speaks, his audience becomes more and more uncomfortable until finally they start turning off their cell phones and ripping their Bluetooth out of their ears. And later in this presentation, I'll reveal to you why Dr. Howard Fisher, one of the foremost authorities worldwide on the dangers of cell phone radiation, answered my call to him on his cell phone while playing golf. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, I realized as I gathered this information that I just had to share it with as many people as possible, as quickly as possible, so that you can understand what health risks you are taking when you use a cell phone, and what you can do to guard your health so that you can have peace of mind when you and your family use your cell phones. So now I want to start out by talking a little bit about perspectives about cell phones. You see, I was talking recently with two college students, and they told me they did not believe cell phones are dangerous. They cited as evidence the fact that they had not yet been diagnosed with cancer, and they do not see droves of people dropping dead from cell phones or from cell phone related cancer all around them. So let's think about this for a moment. Does everyone who smokes just immediately die of lung cancer or emphysema? No. But is smoking known to substantially increase a person's chances over time of developing and dying from one of those diseases? Yes. So, if you want to avoid getting lung cancer, do you think it would be a good idea to stay away from cigarettes? Yes. So, although those college students I was speaking with hold the perception that cell phones are perfectly safe because they have not yet been diagnosed with cancer, many scientists and researchers and neurosurgeons would agree with top Australian neurosurgeon and researcher Dr. Vinnie Khurana's statement that mobile phones could have health consequences far greater than asbestos and smoking. I'd like to share a story I found in GQ magazine dated February 2010. It was a story of an investment banker using a pseudonym of Jim in this article. Now, Jim was a managing director at a top Wall Street firm, and he had been diagnosed with a brain tumor 5 years earlier. He explained that his tumor was located just behind his ear on the side of his head where he was accustomed to holding his cell phone. His tumor was not immediately fatal. He was told the 5-year survival rate is about 70%. Jim was 35 at the time of his diagnosis and suspected right away the tumor was a result of his very frequent cell phone usage. He explained that most investment bankers have been using cell phones since 1992. Now, Jim's neurosurgeon was on the staff of a major medical center in Manhattan. When Jim asked him about the possibility of a cell phone-induced tumor, the doctor responded that in fact he was seeing more and more of such cases as Jim's. Young, relatively healthy businessmen who had been using their cell phones obsessively for a period of many years. The neurosurgeon said he believed the wireless industry had discredited studies showing there is a risk from cell phones. Jim stated quite bluntly, I got a sense that he was very angry. A handful of Jim's colleagues had already died from brain cancer, and the more reports he encountered of young finance guys developing tumors, the more certain Jim felt that it wasn't a coincidence. Jim said he knew 5 other people at his firm who had gotten tumors, and each time people asked the same question he had asked his neurosurgeon. He said he heard that question in the hallways. Could cell phones possibly be the cause of the tumor? Now, this is the same question that people started asking as far back as the early 90s. So now, let's start looking at what the research studies are showing us about cell phone radiation health risks. Whoops, the question is, which research is right? Now, the wireless industry's research is telling us that, according to CTIA, the Wireless Association's leading industry trade group, the overwhelming majority of studies that have been published in scientific journals around the globe show that wireless phones do not pose a health risk. Well, that sounds really reassuring. So let's take a look at one of these studies. Here's a study that came out back in January 2010. It said cell phone exposure may protect against and reverse Alzheimer's. Now that sounds interesting. The study encourages people to talk on their cell phones more in order to protect themselves from Alzheimer's. Well, let's look into this a little bit further. The study failed to mention that the 2 advisors overlooking the study were affiliated with the wireless industry. Interestingly, their names did not appear in the study, so this possible conflict of interest did not need to be reported. The study also failed to mention that the radiation used was not equivalent to cell phone radiation. It was not as strong, and it did not have the same type of pulse as cell phones have. The study also did not mention that scientists already know that when our cells are exposed to small doses of radiation, such as those used in this study, they do naturally increase their immune response and try to resist it, as was observed in this study. After a period of time, however, the initial immune response will wear down. This study was terminated too quickly to allow for that wearing down of the immune response to be observed. And then the study was reported that cell phones may protect against Alzheimer's. Furthermore, In other studies done around the world using actual cell phones, memory deficits were found in mice. Now, this study is one example of how research can be distorted to mislead the public. In his book, Doubt is Their Product: How Industry's Assault on Science Threatens Your Health, author David Michaels exposes what he refers to as product defense companies. He says these companies combine science with public relations to help clients avoid regulation and litigation, and the intent is to cast doubt on real science. According to Michaels, product defense consultants skew scientific literature and manufacture and magnify scientific uncertainty. They also influence government policy decisions to the advantage of polluters and manufacturers of dangerous products. Doubt is our product since it is the best means of competing with the body of facts that exist in the minds of the general public. It is also a means of establishing a controversy. That is a quote from an industry representative. So now that you have a little more insight, would you really want to take the advice of this study and talk more on your cell phone to keep from developing Alzheimer's? In 1992, a Florida man brought a lawsuit against a number of cell phone manufacturers and service providers after the death of his wife from a brain tumor shaped like her cell phone's antenna. Cell phone manufacturers frantically mobilized to reassure their investors, and as a result, in 1993, the cell phone industry funded a $25 million research project. The purpose of the project was to prove that cell phones are safe. The results of the project were proof that cell phones are not safe. The industry's own research established a strong connection between cell phone use and brain damage, neurological disease, genetic damage that is a precursor to cancer. In 1999, the wireless industry abruptly discontinued all funding for this research project, and they told their head researcher, George Carlo, not to make the results public. Carlo, however, wrote a book titled Cell Phones: Invisible Hazards in the Wireless Age. And if you can see up here, it says the authors raised serious questions about the integrity of the cell phone industry and the FDA. This was a quote from the San Francisco Chronicle. The book was called A Clarion Call from the cell phone industry's former chief scientist on the extreme health hazards posed by wireless communications devices. Hey, so I thought that we would take a little break now because if you're anything like me, you may not have a whole lot of time to sit around and watch a really long video. So I thought I'd break this up into 3 separate videos. In the next video, I'm going to be sharing with you a little more information, more specifically about what the research is finding, and also how the cell phone industry is working to cover up that research and to skew the results so we don't realize, hopefully, according to them, what's going on. And in the 3rd video, I'm going to be talking with you a little bit more about how you can use your cell phone more safely, as well as actually neutralize the effects that the cell phone is having on your body. So for right now, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and leave a comment below and just share with me a little bit of what you have been wondering or thinking about using your cell phone up to this point, or if it's a new idea to you possibly that cell phones could be dangerous. So if you go ahead and leave that information, and then after you submit your comment, you're going to be redirected to another video in which I will show you the next step that you need to take in order to make sure you don't miss out on any of this video series, because I think you're going to find this information extremely valuable. So go ahead and leave your comment below, and I'll talk to you again shortly.